Welcome to the 100 Master Coaches series featuring master coaches from around the world. Let's journey together on this 100 Master Coaches series with your host, Coach Mel, MCC. Matthew is an internationally seasoned life and executive coach specializing in supporting leaders who identify within the Latino community. Matthew is known for being generous, intelligent, clever, and resourceful, all wrapped up with a big caring heart and a lot of laughter. He brings expertise in assessing learning, measuring coaching skills, and delving deep into his passions, especially in the realm of creativity. What excites him most is helping others to embrace what makes them unique, tapping into creativity to bring out the fun in the mundane, sharing knowledge and learning with others, and building meaningful partnerships and relationships. Now on to the show.
Hello, and welcome to the 100 Master Coaches show. This is Coach Mal, and today on the show, all the way from Cleveland, Ohio, is Matthew Cintron-Quiñones. Welcome to the show, Matthew.
Thank you very much.
So, Matthew, tell us, as we begin right smack here, tell us about you.
Well, you got the big detail correct. The Cleveland, Ohio, USA. This is basically where I was born and raised. It's where I still live. I had a couple of detours. I went to Europe for a while, lived there, came back. So Cleveland has always been the home base. I love it here. I can't imagine moving anywhere else, although you never know what could happen tomorrow. I grew up very shy, and I like to mention that because if you met me today, that would seem like such a lie. You may know the game Two Truths and a Lie. I think if someone said you're a very shy kid growing up, they would be like, oh, that's a lie. I've really come out of my shell. And so as we've talked before, I'm a big international traveler.
Yeah.
I am reigniting that identity of mine because I'm not sure you heard, but there was a pandemic and that got in the way of that fun activity. But yeah, so I that's a big part of my identity and traveling. Because I was so shy, I was afraid of the outdoors. I was like, I was terrified of public transport. Now,
Wow.
no big deal. And then I'm also Latino, and I'm really proud of that identity.
That is amazing. Thank you so much. I love that bit of that travel. I read somewhere that you've been to 60 plus countries or something like that.
That is correct. The current number is 67, with a
Okay.
few controversial, is that really a country? But it's 67.
And you've been to where I am right now, Melbourne, Australia.
I have. That was the very first, when I went to Australia, that was destination one. So I have flown into your airport and I have gone through your passport control.
Well, we won't talk about my airport. The airport's nothing to shout about, but the country is really beautiful. Like the many countries that you've been, I'm sure the uniqueness in all of them. Matthew, thank you for coming on the show. We're gonna talk about you as a coach as well. So tell us a little bit about how that journey came about.
Yeah. Well, when I was in university getting my bachelor's degree, one of the things that was very present, hard to ignore, was different opportunities to get involved with leadership training. Become a leader. It was a big buzzword. You just saw it everywhere. And so it was very hard to ignore. And so when I got into learning about what it means to be a leader, myself as a leader, I came across the coach approach to leadership. And I thought, I wonder what that is. And often when I was reading into it, so many different sources, and I don't have bibliography, so don't quote me, but there were so many sources that said that it was one of the best approaches. And so it was always a little thing just living in my head. And so as I got into different career paths, I started off in education on the administration side of universities. As I was leading teams, as I was programming and offering things, I just kept going back to what is the coach approach way to do this? And a big part of it was empowering people and really a sense of partnership. Now, I didn't have that word partnership until much later.
Yeah.
But it was always something that was lingering with me that I never really knew that I was doing. And so I had a couple of, as I like to say, plot twists in the story of my life. And a job that I ended up with had this approach to coaching on with university students. And so the idea with them was this office was primarily for tutoring, so helping folks get better at individual
Yeah.
subjects.
Yeah.
But that was often a very micro experience. And so you may get really good at biology, and if you never use it again, who cares? You pass biology. So there was an approach to really help people. How do you become a better learner so that way you can learn anything, more or less? And so that's where I first heard about coaching with the label of academic coaching. Knowing what I know now, might have been more on the consulting side, but wasn't totally that. And so in that role, I was only part-time, and I was looking for ways to possibly convince them to hire me full-time. So I began a Google search into coaching certifications, and I think anybody listening will know what pops up, a lot of stuff. And so it just became a snowball from there, and
Yeah.
I really found a good fit for me. And then one day I decided I don't want to work for anybody else except myself. And that's what I did with absolutely no preparation. Just like, you know what? I have not prepared for this at all, and I'm going to do it right now. And so I did. That's how I got here today.
I hear many things happening there, Matthew. I'm not trying to, listen in as a coach right now, but there's this bit about you jumping into things and then just making it work. Is that part of your DNA?
Wow, I probably, well, I was gonna say not always, but maybe it always was sort of there. I probably got more energy was put into it because
Yeah.
I remember when I was in this really shy period, I came home from high school and I asked my mom, "Hey, can I go to Costa Rica this summer?" Again, this was the kid who didn't go outside, who didn't was afraid of public transport, afraid of strangers, and I think her first response was, "You don't even go outside. Why would you go to a country known for its nature and its beauty?" And I thought,
Oh.
well, they speak Spanish there and I want to practice. And so I think that was one moment where I really stretched myself, and it only kept getting better. And so I have definitely developed the mostly accurate confidence to jump into things and see what happens and make it work. So yes.
Mm, mm. So the travels kind of got you out of your skin and got you out there experiencing the different things and people and the cultures. And how does that link to all the kind of work that you're doing right now?
Yeah, absolutely. So one thing that I should add is, as I said at the beginning, I am Latino, but I did not grow up speaking Spanish. I was very much a brat, as we'd say. I would just like, no, don't talk to me that way, and I'd run away. So when I was in high school, I began taking formal classes to learn the language, and I ended up picking it up really, really well. And I say that because I just became really fascinated with the whole idea of language.
Mm,
And so when I began traveling, I had studied the language, I was doing all the quote unquote the right things. And then I was in Costa Rica and I would ask for something at the hotel and people would laugh at me. And I would think, what did I say that was so funny? And that's when I got exposed to certainly that, oh, hey, that word doesn't mean this here, it means this.
yes,
And often I would think, who told, what happened in your culture where you thought this innocent word could mean this?
that's true.
So I share that because I think it's common for anybody who learned a second language or third or fourth to have that moment. But um, coaching really resonated with me in that way where I thought it was really fascinating. I began to study it really intensely and practice. And then there were moments where I began getting exposed to, I guess you could say, the different dialects, the different ways of doing it. There's no one right way to speak Spanish, but there is Spanish and there's other languages. There's no right way to coach, but there is coaching in other disciplines, other fields. And so my brain has been, I would say, very focused on there is no one right way to do something, both
Mm,
from learning Spanish. I also wanted to be a math teacher, and I had a math teacher who would really stress there is no one way to solve a problem. I'm
mm,
going to teach you the effective way, but if you take the 20-minute longer approach, well, you're still going to get the right answer. And so I think both of those experiences has really it really speaks to what I do as a coach, to be always learning, to be mindful of different backgrounds and cultures, and what do I have in the metaphorical toolbox that I can use. And then especially when I'm, helping train new coaches, there's the individual culture dialect within them. How can they find a way where that fits into what they do as a coach? And so that stuff is really important to me, but it all came down to learning Spanish, and it's been clearly, I'm making connections right now with you. It's clearly been informing a lot of what I've been doing.
Mm. So I'm gonna put it to the test right now, right? I am
Okay.
Malaysian by birth and growing up. I'm Asian in heritage. Lived in Australia for the last 15 years. Let's say I want to start coaching or get into coaching, right? What would Matthew tell me or use that to kind of create a, metaphor or a narrative to kind of say, hey, this is something just for you?
Wow. Okay. My very first thought was time zones. So I
Oh,
mean,
wow.
it's kind
Yes.
of program that can suit your time zone.
Yeah.
I think it's important to find out when you already hear what exactly got you to a place of where you wanted to start coaching people, or where that term excited you to a point, I want to
Mm,
formalize it.
mm,
So I think I would start there. And I would assume that there may be some cultural experiences or backgrounds or traditions that probably inform that to some capacity. Maybe in one's family, you were always expected to be, the older family member, and everyone came to you for advice. That's how I think a lot of people get into coaching. I love giving advice. Well, hold on a second, take a step back. So I think I would just start with there, and
yeah.
then really find out, what do you know about this? And
Yes.
once I share with you how the world is sort of operating in this way, do you
Mm,
want to run away, or do you want to jump into it? So that'd be my prescription.
thank you. What I'm hearing is using my experiences, using what I've gone through and those situations to kind of get to the core of the why and help me build something from there to connect with my world.
Absolutely.
Wonderful. And did that happen for you right from the onset, Matthew? Like, someone kind of saying, this is the world of coaching, and this is this, and where you're from, and creating this wonderful narrative for you, or was that an opposite experience?
I think it was unfortunately the opposite experience. Yeah, that didn't happen for me.
Okay.
It took me a while to really find how the person I am on the day to day could be successful as a coach. I think I
Wow.
often felt first that I had to confine myself, tone myself down a lot, and just really be a coach, but it's with someone else's idea of what a coach was. It was missing the flair, the personality.
Thank you.
Um, yeah.
Wow. I loved what you just said about allowing your bit to come through in what you're doing. And when you realize that bit of you needed to come and mash up into what you're learning about coaching, what happened for you?
I had a lot more fun. Really.
Okay.
I mean, I like to do things that I think really fulfill me, but I think it also comes down to having a lot of fun. There's some fun in the things that I like. And so there was a point where I realized, once I could find a way to integrate parts of me as a coach, things felt freer. I was
Mm,
able to more easily laugh at myself, such as if I recorded myself and got feedback, I could really see, like, oh yeah, Matthew, in real life, you do tend to do that as a coach. Turn it this way, take it cut
yeah.
down, and then you'll be fine. So I felt that I had a much more enjoyable experience in the moment with clients, receiving coaching myself, looking at my own coaching. So it was a very rewarding gift that I don't know I would have found had I not gone for the MCC credential, for sure.
Mm, mm. And we'll definitely come to that bit about your drive towards that. I remember us speaking the last time about how focused you were on that journey. I would like to ask, in your starting out, after getting certified, coming out, and that's often where younger coaches come in and they're like a little lost and trying to find themselves in this big world where everyone says this is coaching or this is coaching, this is what you got to do first and this is what you got to do next. What happened for you during that period?
Oof, yeah. I really resonate with what you said about just everyone telling you do this and do that. And I guess what happened for me on a broader scale was to also make those comparisons. Was there really one way
Mm.
to do anything in life? To cook, to buy a plane ticket? I mean, there's just so many options.
Yeah,
And so
yeah.
I began picking up on those things
Mm.
as, okay, if I were to do that, where would I start? And honestly, I didn't always know. And sometimes I just wasn't confident. I thought, I don't want
Mm.
to do that. And so um, I also remember, and this is coming to me now, but I also think about when we look up how did a certain celebrity become famous?
Mm.
Uh, a lot of them did really small shows, or they did one thing and it blew up. So
Yeah,
everyone had a different story. And so
yeah.
I think when I was receiving all this info, I actually probably felt pretty guilty when I heard a lot of those things like, oh no, I don't think I can do that. That's really scary. And so at times I got mad at myself to think, why did you get into coaching if you couldn't do these X, Y, and Z things?
Yeah,
And there
yeah.
was a lot of back and forth. There was a lot of, insecurity. But what I think will help me get over that is I started to do things that I just thought were interesting, not necessarily other people's ideas. Well, I usually would receive a suggestion, usually one I didn't ask for, and then I would spin it like, oh, I don't know if I want to do that, but
Ah,
I'm gonna try out this. So there was some desire to, I guess, be different or just try something that was not really done or I hadn't seen before, and then just see what happens. And a big part of that was getting really comfortable with failure, like
mm.
the things metaphorically blow up in your face. That was really huge. And so I just tried a lot of things that, people would recommend do this, this, and this. And I thought, I don't want to, but I might take 10% of that and then 10% of this I heard from over here. And then let me try that out. So I became pretty comfortable. Well, not always comfortable, but willing to try and just see what worked.
I love how you started by saying that everyone's different in the art of cooking. And there can be a recipe. Sometimes we follow it, and then sometimes we're like, I think we need to put that. And actually, I don't have that ingredient. So I'm gonna add something else and call
Yeah.
it my own, right? Tell us one example of that where it kind of obviously worked for you and surprised you tremendously, right? It's like, oh, so it can work when I spin it this way and add a bit more of Matthew in it.
Ooh, yeah, I have one example right that comes right to memory.
Yeah.
It was sort of the idea of you just need to, well, there were two things. So one was you really got to get out there and coach real people. And I say real people in terms of people who respectfully who have not been trained as a coach. And I think
Yes.
it's a very wonderful and fun experience to coach somebody who has not been trained to any degree of what's quote unquote supposed to happen.
Yeah.
And that I do a lot of now. But there was a part of me that was very insecure. And I felt that, okay, well, I don't really know how to do that. And then when I recognized that, I thought, well, crap, then I guess I'm not going to be coaching at all. And that's not good. So honestly, there was a period where I leaned into a lot of peer-to-peer coaching. I mean, there was certainly some insecurity, but the way that I framed it was this is just practice.
Yeah.
Like So when something shows up or when a door opens that I wasn't even expecting, I have not been sitting and wallowing that, oh no, I don't know how to coach real people. I'm still
Yeah.
practicing.
Yeah.
And which I'll throw this in. I am a very firm believer that coaching another coach doesn't automatically mean, oh, they're going to coach themselves. Some coaches are not good clients. I just want to put that out there. They do their best, but I don't think so. You can still get a really challenging client even if they're trained. Anyway, so I think I got a lot of feedback to stop doing that, like cut it off. And I said, no, and I know I need to grow, but I'm also just going to keep doing this so I can keep getting practice.
Yeah.
And also while I figure out some other things in my life. So that was the other thing. I had to contextualize it. Like I think I
Mm.
do want to do this strategy of like, going to more events or putting myself out there. But I do have a couple other priorities that if I don't attend to those, life's not going to be good for anybody.
Mm.
So that's one thing. The other thing I was doing is it's on a sort of opposite note was offering stuff for free, like, oh, free coaching. Now, I wasn't always into that.
Mm.
Obviously, I was doing that somewhat with the peer-to-peer stuff, but I just wasn't even really sure where to begin with that. And so I tried to throw a bit of a curveball and I put out free mentor coaching to people because I was qualified to do that. And what I found was most people were really appreciative of that because there was often a financial barrier. Like, I just spent so much on my training. I
Yeah.
got to get these one or two recordings. And I can't afford a mentor coach. And so I said, you can find the group hours, the maximum of 7 hours, fairly affordable, different places, but the one-on-one, yeah, the price can really vary. So when I was just getting started as a certified mentor coach, I thought, I mean, I got the time and space right now. I can do a couple for free. And so I had different cohorts and I got to meet a lot of people. And because of that, I got my name out there and then different schools contacted me. And so I was able to make some connections. And well, let's just say I don't do free mentor coaching anymore because it's gone up well. So I
Yeah.
think there was just some desire, like there's some part of me that really feels like I remember when I was trying to find a mentor coach, the money was tight and I could do group and I could do it for cheap, but the one-to-ones, man, that's really hard to afford. So
Yeah.
I want it to be for some people, let me help you when I still have the time. And
Mm.
so that probably goes against some philosophy of good business, but I did it for about a solid year with some
Wow.
other things that did give me money. And hey, I think I wouldn't be in about any of the places I would be affiliated with now if it hadn't been for just putting myself out there and building that skill set. So in short, I found a lot of value in strictly practicing the skill, even if it didn't earn me money right away.
Mm. So I hear putting yourself out there, understanding what gets you comfortable, what gets you out of your skin, and still doing it, trying it differently, learning along the way, and then kind of gets good at something. And that's what you kind of known for now with working with X number of wonderful schools out there as a mentor coach.
That part of my self and business has exploded in the best way possible. It's an honor and I find that stuff really fun.
Our good friend Jonathan connected us together. He thought it would be fun, and so far it's been amazing. And he said a couple of things that I want to mention.
Oh
He
boy.
said, you want someone who is very different from all of the rest? You want someone that kind of does not flow in that box kind of thing where they will give you something very different to your experience, Mel. Like, sure, I'm always open for a challenge. And I'm hearing that you're one of the youngest MCCs around. Tell us about that journey and how that came about for you.
It's interesting. And I won't go down a super long rabbit hole, but whenever I was in a professional position
Yeah.
or just some kind of thing where they had a hierarchy of some sort, I always was happy to just get in the hierarchy.
Mm.
Like, oh, in a student organization, there's of course the organization president, and there's maybe the vice president, and the very,
Yeah.
very, very, very bottom might be the assistant to the secretary or something like
Yeah.
that. That was always good for me. But then after a while, I started to think, no, I think I want to go up. I think I want to challenge myself and I want the title. But that was more of the younger Matthew. And so everything started off with, oh, there's no way I'm going to be at the top. I don't want to do that.
Okay.
And then life would develop and be like, okay, so I'm currently this position and I kind of want to be the senior version. I didn't think I'd ever
Yeah.
do it, but let's try it
Yeah.
out. So whether,
Yeah.
a lot of it comes down to different, definitely big in college and then other parts of the professional career. And so when I got into coaching, I went for the PCC first because I had accumulated a lot of hours and I had done a training a while back that was fairly awful. I will not name that school but so my clock of hours technically started quite a while back.
Yeah.
It was just a bad experience, so I blocked that in my memory. Um, anyway, so that got to a point where I had just gotten my PCC, and again, I had a lot of hours by then. And then this person messaged me on LinkedIn saying, "Hey, we're starting one of those new level 3 schools. You want to join?" And I thought, no. I just thought, no. And then I went to their website and they had a scholarship. And I thought,
Uh,
okay, hold on. So it just appeared in front of me. And so I
yeah.
thought, I mean, I guess that's the next thing for me. It's not to get better at PCC. Next is to just go for the MCC. And so I just thought, actually, just to your earlier point, I just kind of jumped in like, okay, let's call myself somebody who's working toward the MCC. And so I just kept an ear out for what's out there. What are some things that I can be doing? How do I make sense of this? And so things just kept snowballing. I would start at point A. I'd meet someone who would show me to point B. Like, oh, let's go there. And I just kept following the movie adaptation of Wicked's coming out, and I was just reading something about that. So the first thought that happened was follow the yellow brick road. Like, oh, there's this one, and there's this one, and there's this one. So I just decided one day I'm done full-time job living and let's just do coaching. So, and I got into a lot of things, whether it was peer-to-peer, eventually working for a couple platforms. And so coaching was everything I did to more or less 24/7.
Yeah.
And then I was practicing the skill set. I was interviewing mentors. I was paying for way more mentors than I even needed. But I mean, the learning was just so much fun for me. And so finally came a day to submit. And then I decided I'm just gonna let's give it a go. In short, it appeared before me. I said, okay, why not? I guess there really is nothing else. And then one day I decided I'm just gonna turn two things in and see what happens.
And it worked. And you're
Yeah.
happy. You're fulfilled,
I,
as you were saying, right?
I am.
Yeah.
It was definitely a big shock. I was like, I can't believe I did this. Um, and now the magic has faded away just a little bit. Every now and then I'm like, oh yeah, I see that after my last name. That looks nice.
Yeah, there is no grandmaster level at this point, at least. If there was, I'll probably also go after it. It's one of those things, right? If there's a goal right in front of us and like, is it attainable? Well, let's try it anyway. Let's go for it. And I love your attitude on that. It's like follow that one thing in front of you, right? And then that one thing becomes another thing, and then you're like, okay, let's go there now. Let's do that. And I'm getting this word. Let's hustle. Is hustle part of your makeup?
Well, I will often say I'm hustling right now. I'll
Okay.
text you later. So I would say yes.
Okay.
But I think that I pause for a little bit because I think there is some sense of hustling to a point where you don't take care of yourself and you're very much focused on one or two things. And, life circumstances may have caused that or contributed
Yeah.
to that. But
Yeah.
I'd like to think that I have a playful hustle. Like if it's not fun or I'm not going to enjoy it, then I'm I'm pretty good at saying, I don't want to do this anymore. Bye.
Well, let's hope you don't do that for coaching because you're truly making lots of waves there. You're impacting lots of people, right? Lots of schools wanting you to work with them. So it is working. I guess the curious me would say, what would kind of get you to a deeper state of coaching? What would kind of draw you into that new part of coaching that you perhaps have not yet explored?
Ooh, that, I guess if something just appeared before me and it sounded interesting. There was it might have been a couple months ago,
Mm,
weeks, I have no idea. I have no sense of time. I made a post in a Facebook group for coaches, and I was very honest. I said, so I just got my MCC, like, now what can I do? So I have a beginner's mindset. I think I always say I'm never too good enough to do a coaching 101 class because I might learn a different concept a different way.
yeah,
And while it's good for me, I do understand there is the psychological safety of younger participants or less experienced
yeah,
participants. And I never want to be somebody that creates an environment, just me being there, eager to learn, would contribute in any degree to other people not feeling welcomed. I mean, that I
wow.
I would feel there. I don't like that. And so,
Mm,
unfortunately, once I got the MCC, I realized a lot of things that are just interesting to me because they're interesting are at this moment not possible because either the policy is no, you're too experienced for this. We don't want you to influence the group. Not directly, just me being there, and I totally get that. So I was looking for like, so what is available for different MCC coaches, and so I heard about a couple programs. I have them bookmarked, and then I just kept leaning into curiosity, like, oh, I haven't talked to Bob in a while. I wonder what he's up to as the MCC. And Bob might have a program like, oh, that sounds fun. And I know Bob. I would gladly give Bob some of my money. So that's good. So I think there's definitely some sense of still unknown. I think
okay.
I do have a good sense of what's going to be a stretch.
Mm,
Probably it's working with the more of the spiritual and the body and coaching. I think that's typically not me.
mm,
I'm not against it.
yeah,
I am impressed with those who can lean into it, and when I've gotten the chance to experience that coaching,
yeah.
it's fantastic. So I would say that might be an area where I'm tapping more into the spiritual part. Yeah, that's mainly it. I think that's going to be the what's really going to take me to the next level and what's really going to be a stretch.
Wow. Thank you. And thank you for sharing all of that as well. And I know it's somewhat intimate for all of us, right, in that space of the unknown. And yet I think that you are pretty open about things like that because what you're sharing, you've put yourself through that pace to eagerly learn something. And I'm thinking right now in that space of inclusivity, and that word is so important in today's world. How do you think coaching could play a part in that and allowing that to really come to being, right? Instead of just putting it as a plug in a wall and say, we do this. And perhaps even relate that to organizations, because again, that's where all the wonderful people are today and how important this inclusivity is in that space.
Where do I begin? Well, I think I go back to the example of my math teacher and my learning Spanish. There's just no one right way to do anything.
Yeah.
Maybe one way is faster, but another way could be slower, but you're still going to get what was the point of it or
Yeah,
what's still there. So
that's true.
I think recognizing if there's something that needs to get done, believe in the other person that they have the creativity and the skills to get it done. And unless you want it done a very specific way, well, in that case, you better give a very specific recipe down to the milliliter, nanoliter,
Yeah,
whatever. Um, there is such a beauty in celebrating the way the human brain thinks and the way that it makes connections. Um,
yeah,
that's the best gift that we can give another person. When I was in university and I had to do a project with people, I would always we would have a Google Doc and we'd share, contribute notes, but I always labeled the file whenever I was in charge as, oh, International Politics Group One Playground. I'd call it the playground. Just what can we play with? How can we just put
yeah,
stuff together and what are we going to see?
yeah,
And so I think that's so important. And you don't know what's going to happen. And the more that we assume like there's no way this is going to work, you're
Mm,
just missing out. We don't know. We really don't
yeah.
know. And that's also a big part of coaching is being comfortable with not knowing. I think
Mm,
all of us could do a much better job at that. So,
absolutely. Yeah. I love the word playground. And when you said that word, I was also thinking about the different ways of how people play, right? People come and they get on the playground. They often jump onto the things on the playground that they're more accustomed to. Like for me, it would be the swing, right? It's like, it's my swing. I'm going to swing it really high and then jump off, right? Watch me jump off. And then some will be on those bars, right? The monkey bars, and some will be wanting to just talk on the side. And then there are some that are just standing around, right? They're just playing with dirt. Have you seen those?
oh yes.
And you're wondering, what are you doing? Come join us. And they're like, nah, nah, I'm fine. I'm fine playing with dirt. That's just so beautiful because it really allows us to do us and also to be sensitive to what's happening around us, right? Who is doing what? And whether we are really comfortable in that, or do we need to invite them into our games and still appreciating that uniqueness, as you were saying, right? As how they bring what they bring into the game. When I think about that, it links me to the different generations in the workplace today, Matthew. And yes, you being younger, right? Closer towards the other side of the new generations coming in. Yeah. What are your thoughts on that? Perhaps even coaching could play a part in that. I'm not sure. What do you think?
I think it goes both ways in terms
Mm,
of, well, from the coaching perspective. So whether it's a younger generation employee or an older generation employee
that's
or
true.
manager, well, one of my mentors has a really great way of saying challenging something, and it's what has you thinking that X, Y, and Z is A, B, and C. And so I'm often thinking about that sort of
That's
a
true.
challenging question is what makes you think, and I'm going to make up an example, but what has
Sure.
you thinking that attending work in jeans means they can't be professional? Or what has you thinking that because he likes to begin at 8 a.m. on the dot, that
Mm,
he's not open to other approaches?
that's true.
So I just really like to challenge assumptions, and I think that's probably a big part of it in the workplace.
Mm,
And as I said, it goes
nice.
both ways. I think everything goes both ways. What's in common? And what I might ask, what has you getting so often worked up about what this person's doing? So there's an interesting thing about also it's sort of this balance of learning and engaging, and then to some degree minding your own business. Like, why is that such a problem for you?
Yeah, I love that. Why is that a
Yeah, and I
problem for you?
yeah, I
Yeah.
honestly, if I could, integrating more of myself into my coaching has allowed me to come up with some more
Mm,
colorful questions.
yeah.
And, some things I'm like, well, as a coach, that's not really something you say. But I mean, sometimes I just want to scream, who cares? Who cares? Just do
Yeah.
it. Just try it
Yeah.
out. It blows it
Yeah.
up. Great. You learned something. So
Yeah.
obviously that defeats the point of helping them come to their own insights. But a lot of it to me, it's like I just would really like to know what is it about this employee that's making you so upset, or why have you spent the first 10 minutes of our time together complaining about somebody who's not here? What's really going on here?
That's so beautiful. The words that you use, challenging assumptions. And that kind of links me and my brain to that point of, the bodies of coaching being structured and obviously needing all of that rigor and levels of excellences. How can we as coaches do better in challenging our assumptions of what coaching is, right? It's like, it's this, come on, I'm going to teach you this on top of that. What do you think?
How long do we have? Oh boy. Um, that's there's so much. I will say this. One of the schools that I attended has a
Mm,
very specific approach to coaching.
Okay.
And they have often said in all of their classes, we may be aligned with ABC philosophy of coaching, but we are open to other. If we are observing you coach and you don't do ABC, but you do, some other alphabet version, that's fine as long as you're staying in the coaching realm. So, I don't think we can ever justify if a coach is speaking for 20 minutes straight exactly what's wrong and how to fix it. No, that sort of defeats the whole empowerment
Yeah.
piece.
Yeah.
But I think that we have to recognize that every human is different and there's never going to be this sort of interaction again. I'm reminded of when I was first traveling, I did a lot of tour groups, and something that always stood out to me was this is never going to happen again
Yeah.
unless we are
So
literally
true.
all in this exact same country and city together. We're never going to be here again. So, what is the unique opportunity that we have in this moment together before we all
Yeah.
go back to our separate lives? And I mean, coaching is very much similar. And
Wow.
so, what is so unique between you and this client that is there an opportunity to do something that, sure, you may not be able to justify with a marker or whatnot, but did you have a beautiful moment that you could really do something interesting? And so I think it's important to recognize, very similar to dialects of a foreign language, there are many dialects of coaching, and there are really no right ways or wrong ways. Again, I think we need some standard of this is still Spanish, this is French, this is German, this is coaching, this is consulting, this is advising. But I mean, heck, in English, we took plenty of French words. We use, quesadilla. There's no English equivalent. It's just a quesadilla. So in coaching, it's very much like that to me. It's just
Yeah.
different dialects and respecting that
Wow.
it's all going to get us there in some other way or not. So again, what's the problem? I don't really know if I answered your question. I get very excited about this, but certainly I don't think anything is absolute. And I think that's what really gets me excited is, yes, you might be able to get a really impactful session by doing this, and this, but maybe if you did that, and that later and did this first, whatever that ends up being, it's fine. It's
Yeah.
fine.
Yeah.
Get over yourself. That's what I want to say sometimes. Just get over yourself. Insert coaching school here.
I like to take it and say this. Don't get so serious about yourself, It's like what the Joker says, right? Why so serious?
I did a presentation where I was going over some like coaching questions that I wish people
Yeah.
would stop saying. Yeah, there's so many things about what to do out there, and I
Yeah.
was like,
Wow.
I'm gonna do a thing on what not to do because it's driving me crazy. But I ended one of the slides with saying, "Why so serious? Why do you have to sound like this? You can do this insert skill here different
That's
ways.
good.
So
That's
stop
good.
it. Have more
That's
fun."
good. That's good. Thank you for that. I'm certainly going to meet some wonderful people next week. I will be thinking about what you just said about
Oh boy.
having yeah, no play right in the playground. Come on, right? I mean, if we remove the fun out of things, I mean, not just coaching, right? What's the joy in doing it then, right? It's like if there's no fun in traveling and there's no like, oh my gosh, they put me onto one side of, I'm supposed to transit to another flight and it's a distance I'm gonna run. What's the fun of having everything so planned out, And
Yeah,
wow, wow, that uniqueness you were saying, right, Matthew? And how we can celebrate that uniqueness in each moment, not just each person, but what you were saying just now is about that moment will never come back the same again. I have the same thought as you. This is it, right? That there will never be a moment like this again.
hmm
Just like us talking right now, there will never be a moment like this again.
exactly. I mean, let's suppose after all this time the mics were off. That would be terrible. But even if we re-recorded it, it will never be the way that it was with
Absolutely.
we had no idea what was going to happen. I had no idea what you were going to ask me, and we just had fun with it. And I was
Yeah,
my honest self. That's
absolutely.
what you get.
Absolutely. If there is a wish for coaching, maybe one wish, you can put out there in the universe? What would that be, Matthew?
See, I'm pretty good at having an answer right away. I'm like, but do I want to say it? Is there a better one? So I have to think really quickly on this one.
It's all right. Take your time.
I don't know if it's anything unique, but I would certainly say I had a. All right, well, let me give it a tiny bit of context. I was in a mentor group once upon a time, and one of the participants was asking the mentor something like, I just really want to tell the client what to do. Like, the problem is so obvious. The problem is so, the solution's so obvious. And I think she said, well, you have to remember that you are the coach and no one cares what you think. And I thought, oh my God. But when it comes to the hit interaction, it's not all about you.
Wow.
And what has you thinking that you know someone else's life better? So my wish is, remember, it's not about you. But it's really a gift to other person to not make it all about you. So shut up. That is my wish.
All right. I take that as the end of our session right now. It's been a pleasure hosting you, Matthew. Really, I want to thank Mr. Wrights again for the introduction. Thank you. It's been a wonderful conversation. And just playing, allowing ourselves to just play and get out there and see what comes to us. Any closing remarks from you, Matthew?
So much pressure. I hope that if you're listening and you disagree with anything or everything, that you have the courage to go out there and find something that is more fun for you.
Wow. This has been the 100 Master Coaches show today with Matthew, myself. Wherever you are, go out there and explore the playground.
That's right.
Till then, take care. God bless. Catch you on the next one. Bye-bye for now.
You have been watching the 100 Master Coaches series with your host, Coach Mel, MCC. Brought to you by Catalyst Coach. www.catalystcoach.live. We will be right back with our next Master Coach on the 100 Master Coaches series.